great pleasure to have you here. Um, if you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Ryan Tumanyema. I'm a third year radiography medical student based in Nigeria. And apart from my medical studies, I'm also a proficient medical writer. I do a whole lot of writings on white paper, on medical articles, on research-based projects for a company and some healthcare companies out there. So today, I'll med talks with Amanda. Hey, Amanda, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, yes, so I'm Amanda Rios. I am from Orlando, Florida. I am a non-traditional first-year medical student at West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine in Lewisburg, West Virginia. And I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor to have you here, Amanda. So, we have a couple of questions for you to, answer for the public. Are you
For
ready?
sure. Absolutely.
Before we go into the main thing, I want you to differentiate the difference between being a traditional medical student and being a non-traditional medical student.
Sure.
Expatiate on that, right?
Absolutely. So the traditional route, as we put it, is basically when you finish undergrad, you finish, usually it's 4 years of undergrad, get all your prerequisite courses done for medical
Yeah.
school, and then you would finish in the spring and then start immediately in the fall in medical school. Um, it is getting more common where people take one gap year, which means like a year in between graduating undergrad and starting medical school. But in my case, that time was 6 years. So I'm a little more non-traditional than the usual. And some people during that time will get a master's degree or get clinical experience or do research. And in my case, I got clinical experience. I did some scribing, and I also helped start a small company that does physical exams for like Social Security disability, like a third party for them. So I did stay busy in clinical stuff, which is part of what helped me get in finally.
Amazing, amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much for explaining that first. It's a great honor. So the first question goes this way. Are you ready?
Yes.
Now, what study strategies, have been successful for you, and what are your advice to other medical students, to have a successful study balance in their academics and everything about them? What are your
Sure.
advice?
So to begin with, just to set a preface, like the studying within undergrad versus the studying med school is probably different. Um, in that there's so much more information coming at you at once. It's harder to keep it up with it all. Now, in that case, I think like for example, in undergrad, I would like read throughout the textbook, take my own notes. There was enough time for that. But now in med school, there isn't enough time for that just because that takes a little bit longer and there's so much information coming at you. So it's a matter of choosing like the more high yield stuff, I would say, and making sure you're doing like spaced repetition, whether it be like Anki or like Quizlet or things of that nature, because it has also happened to me where I did get to study it, but because there's so much information coming and coming, I basically neglected the early stuff. So when time came to study everything for the test, I it's there was a gap. I had to like almost refresh it all. So if there's any advice I can give is to make sure there's some type of space repetition included throughout your studies so that you can stay up to date with the more important topics up to the test.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, before we go into the second question, I want you to tell me, you know, how are you able to balance social media with your medical studies? Because I know being a medical student is a hard work to do. Everybody knows that. So, how are you trying to balance these two equations? I love using
Yeah,
equations. Tell me.
Absolutely. So to me, the content creation and the editing and stuff, that's something I personally enjoy. Um, like even if it wasn't for content creation or for like putting on social media, I like the idea of editing videos and putting sounds and adjusting things. So that's I take it as like my leisure activity kind of. So when I have down, I guess you don't really have downtime, but when I'm giving myself downtime, even if it's a short amount of time, I start compiling things. Oh, this would go here, this will go here. I start editing the video or whatnot. And then even like while I'm walking around or throughout the day, I'll just record things, just record things, just record things. Eventually I'll come back when I set that time for my leisure activity, I'll say, okay, no more than 15, no more than 30 minutes. I'll go at it and then I'll get back to studying. So I just try to mix it in there. It's kind of my relaxation, I say, or my fun thing to do when I need a break or when I need to disconnect from the science a little bit. Um, so yeah, I take it as my break time leisure activity. Yeah,
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for that. So the second question goes this way. How can, what are your advice for the audience, to effectively balance their study time with other commitments, such as work and family and any other thing?
sure. So some things to me hold more weight than others, right? Like family, like you can like family is one of those higher up things, especially if it's like your spouse and your kids, like that takes a higher up. Now, to me, the medical school or your studies would also take one of those higher up positions just because like you chose to be there. Now you're paying for it. This is your dream. Like there's a lot into it. So they're pretty up there in the higher priorities. Now, not that the social media or like other things are not, um, but like where there's a will, there's a way. So like even if it's just taking 10 minutes to squeeze it in there somewhere, don't make it your life because your priorities would be family, the school, the other major important things. But if you really enjoy and really want to pursue the other stuff, you definitely should find the way. It might not look how others the way it looks for others. Like I do see a lot of other content creators in the students or residents that do put out more content and stuff. And sometimes honestly I get a little bit discouraged. I'm like, I could be doing more, but then at the same time, I gotta take it with where I'm at. Like I'm here to study when I'm in school. I enjoy this as well. So I'm gonna squeeze it in when I can, but I do need to focus on my studies because that is really why I'm here. So it goes back hand in hand with if you want it, you'll find a way, but definitely make sure you're measuring your priorities in order and giving most of your attention to it in a way matters more. Not that the other doesn't matter, but yeah. It all depends on you and what you want and what your goal, like your true goal is what I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the fact you stated that you have to study. You
Yeah,
definitely need to
that's
study.
why we're
You
here.
need, sure, sure, sure. We have to, because there's a book I read about how to show yourself approved. If you're a reader, you get to show people that you have something upstairs. Like you have to prove yourself in everything
Mhm.
you do because you read. That's amazing, and that's amazing because if you're studying medicine and you don't study, I don't think you can prove yourself. I don't think you
Mhm.
can get the knowledge, that's deserved for you have so you can offer to others. So thank you so much for answering that question.
Yeah.
So the third one goes this way. Are there any specific resources or tools that can help others or me or the audience manage their study workload more efficiently?
Manage the studying more efficiently or the yeah, okay. Um, so I know a big one is Anki. That's a very big one. Basically, it's like a note cards app that you either find a deck that has the information you need and you download it, or you make your own cards. And the beauty of it is that it does the timed repetition and it has its own, like, it has an algorithm set. So you don't have to think of that part. And they also have the phone app for it. It does cost, I want to say $20, $25, but it connects with like the web version. So anywhere you're at, you're connected to your deck. So I found that efficient. But personally, for me, it wasn't working. I did give it a try, and it does work for so many people, and it's like one of the bigger ones out there. But yeah, for me, it personally didn't work as well. I adverted to Quizlet. Um, I take some notes during lecture based off of some like objectives that they give us to follow, and then I'll answer those. I'll put them into Quizlet, and then from the way you put it in, Quizlet will provide you with flashcards, um, like a practice test, a matching game, and there's another option. I want to say like a text writing one. So the fact that there are different ways to review it, personally for me, I like, because I'm not the just memorizing and looking at it didn't really work well for me. I like being able to reference note cards. I like being able to test myself with the test. I like being able to play with the matching game. It just keeps me a little more entertained, I guess. In regards to bugs, so like the bacteria and the viruses and all that, we found, or I found Sketchy to be very helpful. Um, yeah, I did find, I don't have it for myself yet. I was able to view it with a friend once, and I did find it very helpful then, but it is something that I'm looking to purchase for myself. But there's so many similar options out there aside from the Quizlet and the Anki and the Sketchy and others like Pathoma and some other newer ones out there. Um, that and I think that I want to say most of them have some kind of like a free trial that I would suggest reading into them, looking at reviews, see what will fit you best, just because, everybody's a little bit different. Like most people like the Anki and it didn't work for me. So I would suggest for sure reading your reviews. And sometimes your school or some clubs will offer like discounts for these programs. So I would suggest looking into those to see if it's something you want to get or invest in, to see if you can get a little help in that way.
I believe that the audience will grab something from this. I recently knew about that app through Rachel. She posted about Anki. So I just had to download the app, and it's really amazing for medical students because
Mm.
at least I'm trying to navigate the app, but with time I'm gonna get used to it. But I believe that
Yeah.
it's gonna be very helpful for the audience, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So how do you get to connect with other non-traditional medical students like you, to discuss about study strategies and share experience and
Sure.
about things happening in your life? So tell me, how do you connect?
Sure. So aside from the other few people that I follow on like social media, in real life, prior to going to med school or to undergrad, I didn't really have much exposure to preparing getting into med school like others around me that did. I am the first person in my family to pursue like medical school or a doctor degree, or like to be a medical provider. Well, I have a cousin now who's a nurse practitioner, but when I was preparing, we weren't there yet. So the few people that I know are through social media, and there are a few people that do go to my school that are like, I have one guy. We actually have the same last name, so I call him my cousin, but he's not my cousin. He is older as well, but he also has a family and he's like in the military. So the situation is a little bit different, but we both know that we're a little older than our peers. And then I have other two ladies classmates who are also about my same age. So we do sometimes joke around how being a little older is like a little against us, but we're fighting for it anyway because we're all, I don't think this has been said yet, we're all almost 30. Well, all of our peers are like 21 to 24. So
Yeah,
aside from the peers and the people on social media, I'd say that's probably the only exposure I've had to non-traditional. And I would say we're generally on the same page, but we're all fighting for it because this is all of our dreams, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely. Well, how do you feel you're a mature medical student. Everybody knows that. So how do you feel about it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it one more time? I got a little fuzzy.
Okay, so how do you feel about being a mature medical student? How do you feel about it?
You know, sometimes I think I probably get into my head about it more than I need to. Um, like, I don't think anybody, like peers wise or even professor wise, nobody like really cares, like it's not something to like be like, oh, you're almost 30, like you shouldn't be here. Like, no. Um, I think I do just get into my head. Now, I definitely assume that there is an advantage to not having taken so long. Um, like being more fresh out of undergrad, some of the concepts are still a little bit more fresh. I will say though, to my advantage, just because I worked like in the clinical setting during that time, I would say I may have some advantages in that aspect, like HP, like the taking histories and understanding the need for certain things to be done. Like I think I understand a little bit better, but the sciences, it's been a while. It's been a while. And I feel like some of it I remember it, but it's still med school, like it's still a lot more in depth. So I think that's what most gets to my advantage, but disadvantage, I mean. But in regards to like being looked down for being older and stuff, no, 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 no problem in that regard.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. You just have to just keep moving. Nevertheless.
It's in
Absolutely,
here.
absolutely, absolutely. That's what rules the world, man. But that's cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. So you're gonna tell us your story right now. You
Okay.
know, before
Okay.
we started the session, you told me about your awkward, you know, situation that happened to you about you and your partner,
Hmm.
divorced, and that was crazy.
Yeah.
So you're gonna take your time. You're gonna
Okay.
take your time. Tell us what initiated the divorce. How did it affect your mental health? How did you cope with your studies in that process? To talk us through, get us
Sure.
inspired about your story.
Okay, so just a little bit of background. Um, it was a long distance relationship. He lives in Colombia, I live in Florida. Now he is, this is gonna sound weird because you would say, why that? Why that situation? So me and my parents are Puerto Rican, but my stepdad is Colombian, and we had met his family that lives here. And I've known my stepdad since like I was like 9. So like we throughout a whole bunch of time, we got to meet all his family here, and eventually in 2017, right after I graduated undergrad, we went to Colombia to go meet all his family over there. And then that's when I went met my now ex-husband. And because he lived over there and I was not going to move over there, right? I already had the goal of going to medical school and everything. I was going to stay here. He was going to come here. That was the idea from the beginning. So that did involve like eventually we got married and pre-proposed, eventually we got married and starting the visa process for him to come. But because COVID hit, that took extra time, everything shut down, like the process was just hard, but it was okay because I was in the process of retaking the MCAT. I ended up taking the MCAT like 3 times. So I think that was my biggest downfall, the MCAT, because I had the clinical experience. My GPA was great. Like almost everything I think was pretty great, but the MCAT was a challenge for me, which is interesting because I consider myself a test taker. I prefer test taking any day over writing a paper. But that for me was the monster of the process. So I was in the process of retaking the MCAT and this and that. And actually, I want to say like a week and a half before my third take, which was my final take, we finally got the letter that he was able to go interview at the U.S. embassy over there, and that was the final step. That's when he was like gonna get the green card, or shortly after gonna get the green card and be able to come. And he's like, I don't want to come, and I'm like, okay. The thing is, before this though, and maybe this was my fault a little bit too behind. I had seen things of infidelity, and I did call him out and we did discuss it, and we went through the motions, and the idea was to work on it, and he did show like he did show he was changing in some extent, because at the same time we were in too deep. Like this visa process was like already on the go, we were still waiting, but like at this point it's like he's still gonna come. Like, and the idea was, things was gonna get better. And he did say, I'm sorry. And then he did show some improvement, but eventually it all started happening again. And then eventually the visa thing, and he's like, I'm not coming. And it was a lot for 1.5 weeks before my hopefully last MCAT attempt. And so I'm in my head with the infidelity, with the him not coming, with my test coming up. My bird, something happened to my bird. I have a pet bird. She like basically almost died, all like 1.5 weeks before this last MCAT take. But I was sad, I was angry for I was angry and sad the whole time, but like I knew at the same time I had to just put it on hold. Like I let it out and then okay, like I have a goal. Like this is gonna keep on going and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. So I ended up, still moody and stuff. Thank God I had at the time I still lived with my parents. So like I had them fully supporting me and encouraging me. And they were going through the emotions too, because it was basically a kind of a family thing and not at the same time. Well, eventually I finally took my test, and like the second I got out of that test, I sat in my car and just it all came out. But thank God somehow like still my score between like the previous times and this time, the score still went up some, which I was very grateful for. And thank God at the end it worked out because now I'm in med school. And in a way, it's a little bit less baggage. So now looking back, I'm kind of grateful for it. It sucked while I was going through it. And that sounds kind of bad as baggage, but it is a little bit smoother not having to, I only have to think about my bird and me pretty much, not my bird, me, and a spouse. And then him coming would have had to been like acclimating to life here because life is different between here and there, and then moving to another state. It just, now looking back, it wasn't the goal then, but I have to say there was beauty out of it too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Blessing in disguise, right?
right.
Yeah.
All
It
things will
that
work for the
was
good.
so yeah, yeah, sure. That was so engaging your story. Your story was so engaging. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm just speechless right now that the whole thing just came,
Yeah.
and gone to your own favor, and that's
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's true.
And I definitely learned a lot. It did definitely, not only that, also the not getting into med school. Okay, so I took that camp 3 times and I applied 5 cycles, which means 5 different years. And I wasn't gonna apply this last time. I was gonna do like a different plan, but it was like one more time. Like just fighting the getting into med school and then having that thrown on, like it definitely, like I feel like I can handle problems a little bit better. I don't like dealing with problems, but like when they come, like I can remain a little more calm, try to think things through, like a little more persistence, a little more like oomph. So I definitely at least am grateful for being able to grow in that aspect.
So, what is your advice for people that this current situation that is now in the past right now? So, what are your advice for them?
We can't change anything that we can't control, right? And then even sometimes things we can control, in a moment we make a choice and then later on we're like saying like I shouldn't have done that. But we're here now. All we can do is learn from that experience and try not to repeat it, right? Because if we're doing the same things and we're repeating the same things, we didn't learn, we didn't grow. So if you take it,
Yeah,
analyze it, like what should I have done? Like what could I have done? What should I do if something like this happens again in the future? And just learn from it, grow from it, try not to be bitter about it. I'm not gonna lie, like it's not my favorite thing. Like if I were to see him again in person, I'm not gonna tell you I'm gonna be the happiest person on earth, but you know, I'll keep my composure for sure. You know, just learn from it, grow from it, and help others going through it too. Even if it's not the exact same thing, something similar. Like there's I understand grace a little bit better. I'm not perfect, right? I still mess up sometimes. But like I understand sometimes things aren't as the way we think it is
Yeah,
that someone may be going through, you know. Communicate, that's a big one, guys. That is a big one.
definitely.
Communication. Sometimes it's hard to communicate, but just use your words and try grow in that area. Even with your patients later on, like communication is going to be key, you know. So in so many aspects, I feel like that's a big one too. Communication. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from those mistakes of others, and learn to communicate even when it's hard.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that was amazing nuggets you just dropped right there. Thank you so much for helping. So I want you to tell us your study techniques, how you able to study and pass exams and everything. So talk us through so we can learn from it.
Sure. So I am still actually on my learning journey. Um, and I think it has something to do with, you know, different blocks or different sections are going to require different strategies. Like, for example, we started with Foundations of Medicine, which in a way was review of like undergrad stuff. And then we went to musculoskeletal, which was a lot of review, a lot of memorization, the bones, the nerves that supply it, the arteries, the veins. So that was a little bit smoother. Now, when it came to cardiopulm, which is the last one we just finished, it was a lot of physiology, which I like, but also it was so in depth. I just think I wasn't probably ready for it. I passed the class. I passed the class. I did pass the class. So I think I'm still learning. I did find that spaced repetition to be helpful for a lot of the topics, especially for the bugs and drugs, the like bacteria and then the antibiotics and all that, which is also a lot. But that is straight memorization. If you can find little tricks to remember what goes with what, that would be great. Um, but with the physiology things, it is a matter of really understanding how it works and how to apply it. So with that would probably just extra passes, extra repetition. Um, but yeah, you will also find what works best for you. Like I said, the Quizlet so far has been what works best for me for repetition. Um, some people like writing things out. Some people like note cards. Some people are more auditory. They'll get, you know, put on the lecture and just hear it over and over as they're walking. Um, so I would, they say the first year is like when you're kind of figuring things out. And I'm a believer of that because I've already been through like three different study methods. And I think I'm gonna try something else when I go back. Like I'm gonna listen to like lectures and then depending on what kind of block we're on, I'm gonna try the different methods. And then because usually second year is a little bit denser in certain other areas. Right now it's more like foundational stuff. So it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. But you can do it. We can do
Yeah,
it. Just
sure.
keep
Definitely,
trying.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Well, that was so fulfilling, and I really learned something from it because about like when you mentioned about repetition, it does help, and I believe that it will definitely help people out there about not just read silently, just to, memorize and repeat, if it's in French, they call it repeat, just repeat wherever you're memorizing or something, and
Mhm.
it's just gonna get stuck in your brain. So
Yeah.
that was an amazing suggestion. So talk us through what is the main challenge you faced when you finished your undergrad and now you're doing medicine fully. So tell us what is the major challenge you faced and what is your specialization?
Okay. The major thing I faced like in medical school, um, is the amount of information, and that's not something that's gonna change anytime soon. It's something that like with learning, my best way of studying is coming with it. Um, just because I'm personally like to like understand how things work. To me, that's how they click. But there's a lot of things that we have to understand how they work, and it's too much. sometimes that takes a little bit of extra time for me personally, just to like make sure I am sometimes a perfectionist, which means that I want to know every angle and every aspect of it. But I am learning, some things you just have to just just know, just trust that they know what they're talking about and take it as it is. Um, so I think that's the hardest thing, the amount of information. And somebody explained it to me once before. The what they compared it to was drinking out of like a fire hydrant or like a big hose. And then one person, like right before starting med school, was like, they say that, but what it really is, it's you're drinking from the hose, but you also got to collect the water that's falling out. So like it's a lot. It's a lot. Remembering the stuff that you already learned, trying to learn the new stuff. It is a lot. But it's doable. And there are a lot of awesome professionals already out there. So if they can do it, we can do it too. So yeah.
Or more than them.
Yeah. And then the
Absolutely.
specialty that I want to go into, as of right now, I want to do women's health OBGYN.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Tell us what you want to specialize. What motivated you to do that?
I asked myself, when do I think it started? And it goes, the first exposure I think was when I was very little. I want to say under 5 years old. I used to watch this show with my grandma. It's called A Baby Story. It was on TLC. I don't know if you guys know about that or not. But like it was about basically a mom going into labor and delivery, and they'll have like the nurses talking and then the family members talking, all that. And then, I mean, they wouldn't show when the baby comes out, but they would, generally show when the baby comes out. And that
Yeah,
stayed in my head. And then later in high school, I finally took my first anatomy class, and the last section was reproduction, and like hundreds. I was like, that was my favorite thing. I loved it. I loved it so
oh,
much.
really?
Later in college, I decided I didn't want to pursue. Actually, let me go back. In high school, I started looking at jobs in labor and delivery, and that's when I first came across the term obstetrician gynecologist, and I was like, this is it. This is the one. But then later, I was like, I don't
Yeah,
want to take all this time becoming a doctor. I want to start working after college. So I decided I was going to do social work instead. But it's cool because I did do a year social work in my studies. And like I was already planning where I was going to do my practical. And there was an option of working at a hospital in the labor and delivery unit. So I was like, I want that.
yeah,
Or at a
absolutely.
teen mom program. And I was like, it's going to be either the hospital labor delivery or with the teen mom. So I always wanted to do something with like labor and delivery. But then eventually one day came, and I came across a video, and this sounds weird, but a video of like the science behind like the egg and the sperm coming together and like how that develops into a human being. And I was like, this is it. Like I cannot keep pushing this. Like it's gonna take me even longer now, but I'm doing it. So here I am, finally in med school.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. That's amazing. That's really
Yeah,
amazing. Pushing you, just pushing what you loved from childhood, and that's really amazing. I believe you're
yeah,
gonna, achieve that goal definitely. You
yeah.
would definitely achieve it. You definitely. So, do you have a an online business you're doing?
Oh yeah. It's
Tell,
super in the beginning though.
tell us
Um
tell us about the
yeah.
business.
So like leading up to starting med school, I was like, I need to figure out if I can do this passive income thing. And I like how I said earlier, how I like editing like short like the videos and
Yeah,
putting music and stuff. Well, it's also kind of like just creating things, I guess. So I would come up with like some designs on like Canva online, and then I found out there's like that print on demand companies like Printify and Printful, and I was like, okay, this is something I can do because you don't really need to invest too much in it. You just have to make your design, and then if someone orders a shirt, then they'll take care of everything. So I was like, okay, this sounds like a goal. Like, let's try this. So I started playing around with it, and then I made an Etsy shop where I posted up, and I started with some shirts. I started with some like planner sheets. But I think now that I'm on break, because I've been thinking of it during the semester of if I want to continue, if I don't, or what I'm gonna do about it. But then now that I'm on break, I have some like some sayings and some designs that I have in my head that I'm gonna try to get them out there while I'm on break. And I'm gonna post them on my Etsy shop too. There's probably gonna be stuff more now, like related to medicine and maybe like students and like women in medicine or students in medicine. So we'll see. I'm thinking like t-shirts and like sweatshirts, and we'll see what else. Maybe tumblers. I don't know. So yeah,
Wow,
it's
that's
all
amazing. That,
for fun, but cool.
that's amazing. Wait, do you work while going to school? Apart from your online business, do you work while going to school?
So I do. It's the same company that I worked at like before coming. It's we do like third party physical exams for disability. I don't because it's a doctor that does the actual exam, but like I manage the clinic, and I say manage just because it's a very small business, like very small company. So it's not like I'm managing like 10 different offices. No, it's pretty simple. Um, we have an MA who's actually my sister. She's the one who like is there with the doctors, taking in the patients, taking the histories and all that. And then right now, I'm able to keep it because my part of the job is pretty flexible. It's like submitting the exams. Um, so I can do that from anywhere. I can do it as long as it's like within 10 to 14 days from the clinic date. And they have to be submitted within that window. So being that I can wait until the weekend or whatnot. And it takes me like 2 to 5 hours a weekend. So, but I'm also able, while I'm doing that, I'm also able to like have Netflix in the background or like listen to music while I'm doing it. So it's almost like for me, like not work. It's like debrief, but also working. So it just works just because it's like so flexible. My boss is really awesome. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity too.
Wait, wasn't that detrimental to your medical studies? You're working and also going for studies. Wasn't that a distraction?
So it is, well, the creating the shirts in my online business, like I haven't, honestly, I haven't really touched that during the semester. Now that I'm on break, I'm gonna go into it. Um now the other work, the one that's 2 to 5 hours per weekend, it could definitely be considered a distraction, but that's why I focus on doing it only on the weekends. Like on Fridays after class, like I don't want to study. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like to go out to eat. That's my thing. Go out to eat with friends. And then so between finishing classes and when it's time to like go out to eat or do whatever I do with like my friends, that's when I'll like do the work. And I'll have like my music. I'll have like the Netflix on the side or whatever. So like it's not school. My head thinks of it like it's not school, and then it's smooth. It's not like it doesn't take like a lot of brain space, I guess, or a lot of
Yeah.
effort. So it's manageable. Now, if it was like something a little more serious, I definitely, or something that required more time, I'd definitely be like, I probably can't do this. But being that it's
I
flexible
think
and light, I think I can for now.
okay, that's cool. I think you love music so much, right? What kind of music do you listen?
Right now, I am on an R&B soul area. I like a little bit of everything,
Hmm.
but right now I'm really like new R&B. Yeah. I don't know.
Could you just name two artists you love, two of your artists you love so much? Could you name them
Yes.
first?
Yes. So the first one is Sabrina Claudio. I love her music. And
Mhm.
then there's
Mm.
a duo, their name is Van Jess, VAN and then JESS all together. Yeah. Those are my top two right now.
Amazing, amazing. So, first question before we wrap up the session is you've been an amazing speaker. I mean, Amanda, you've been
Thank you. Thanks for
amazing.
the
I believe that this,
opportunity.
yeah, sure. And I believe that the audience will definitely, grab something from this, you know. And so tell us how you're, balancing burnout and, you know, stress and everything, just tell us how you do that first.
Um, this may not be the healthiest thing, but I go to sleep. Well, on weekends specifically. I let myself sleep in. It's like my favorite thing. Just because during the
Yeah,
week,
that's
I'm
cool.
like, during the week, I'm
That's
like a
cool.
night
That's cool.
owl. So I'm usually tired.
That's really cool.
Um, Aside from that, I try to tell myself like one step at a time, get one thing done at a time, pick one and
Yeah,
get it done. So that's
sure.
how, Yeah. Sometimes I start just organizing or cleaning my room. Like if my bed's not done, like I have to go do my bed. And then I'll look at the
Yeah, yeah,
computer.
absolutely.
Like, let me go do something else. And then I go do laundry or
Sure,
something. But
sure, definitely.
it's probably just a distractor at that point.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Amanda. You've been an amazing guest speaker. So, before we round up, what is your word for the audience?
One more time, I'm so sorry. It got blurred.
Your last word for the
That's fine.
audience.
If you want it, fight for it. That's it.
Go for it.
Like,
That's
it's not gonna be easy.
it.
And it's probably
Yeah,
gonna be
absolutely.
hard. You might have to do it more than once, but if it's what you really
Mhm.
want and you don't see yourself
Go
doing
for it.
anything else,
Go for
fight
it.
for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. If
Yeah.
you love this content, do well to subscribe, like, comment, and share. So definitely touch on so. So thank you so much for hopping in. It's a pleasure to have you, Amanda.
Thank you.